So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Trained by Tsunade and got Harem. So let's start the series. It should have been the best day of their lives because their daughter Naruto had just been born. But it turned out to be the saddest, as Minato stared down at his dying wife with grief. Kurama-sama, poor Kyuubi-sama, didn't deserve this. But he moaned as he heard Kyuubi's insane, anguished roars since this was the only way to keep Kyuubi and the community safe. Kyuubi had always been kept in an Uzumaki, but now Minato looked from his wife to his young daughter, who was propped up in his arms and wrapped in her blankets. She was sleeping for the moment, but not for long considering the ruckus Kyuubi-sama was making, so he bit the inside of his mouth to look at her tiny face. He had no desire to part from her. She would never play, summon a fox, or discover the secrets of her clan because of one renegade Uchiha. He would never hear her first words or witness her walk for the first time. He had no idea what flavor she liked or if she would be as addicted to ramen as her mother. He hated the fact that he would never know if she inherited her mother's cooking skills or his own. Minato looked up to one side and saw his pupil waiting there. "Kakashi Kit," he said. "Come here, Kit Tsunade." "Is that?" Kakashi asked at his side. "Yes, this is Naruto Kit," Minato murmured quietly as she lifted the mask to allow Kakashi a better look at her face. Then he said, "Come meet your sister." Kakashi looked down into her face, and she was the cutest thing he had ever seen. "But Tsunade, why am I here, Kashi?" Minato completed for him. Kakashi nodded. "I need you to look after my daughter." Kakashi tried to object, saying, "But Sensei don't argue with me, Kakashi Kit." Minato reprimanded, "I don't have time." When Kakashi said, "She is going to need her older brother because Mama and Papa aren't going to be here," Minato's eyes were already starting to glaze out. Kakashi whimpering, "Tsunade, promise me," Minato cried out, clearing her throat. Kakashi blinked. "Tsunade? That you will protect her, Kakashi!" Minato shouted, coughing up blood, his voice growing fainter and more frantic. "Promise me as my Kit and her older brother." Kakashi gave in and said, "I swear to Tsunade." "Thank you. Make sure she knows that we would have been with you both if there had been any other way." "Goodbye, Naruto," Minato muttered as the remainder of his life left his body, placing Naruto in Kakashi's arms. Team 7, not present? Kakashi looked at the Hokage's counselors incredulously. Did they really believe Kyuubi-sama to be a mindless monster? Even if he might not be in his right mind, which he should be able to regain in a few years, he was not a stupid beast. To protect himself, Naruto would comply even if they were ridiculous. They thought they had triumphed when Kakashi grinned under his mask as he placed her in the orphanage. "But Naruto and I will have the last laugh," he thought, and before he walked away, he lowered his mask and kissed her forehead. Because of the mental connection between her and Kakashi, Naruto would never be entirely alone. Across the valley where they were battling, the girl shouted out, "How could you do this to us, Sasuke?" She noticed that the dark-haired lad in front of her was panting and that their battle was coming to an end, so she said, "You promised that we'd get stronger together. Why are you running away from me?" "Oh really?" Uchiha Sasuke, the dark-haired young man, cried back to her in a mocking tone. "When did I say that? You're such a dope, Naruto." "I'm going to Orochimaru whether you like it or not," he said. She was a gorgeous blonde girl with brilliant blue eyes that looked like jewels in the proper light. Normally wrapped into a tight French braid, her long, Disheveled blonde hair was starting to tumble into and about her face. She looked just as tired as he did, with her hair falling out of the normally immaculate braid and her gasping. "Team! You promised right before we entered the Chunin exams," Naruto said, tears in the corners of her eyes, looking at her best friend. "How could you have forgotten? It wasn't that long ago." Sakura-chan had just decided to focus on her training and stop fangirling after you. Our team was finally working together to get better. How could you? Enough, when Sasuke remarked. You and Sakura are both holding me back. I don't remember any of that. Naruto winced. All you ever do, Uzumaki Naruto, is prevent me from reaching my full potential. Uchiha Sasuke, you're mistaken. Right now, blurred eyesight would only be a hindrance, and it wouldn't help her win back her closest friend. It wouldn't help her make him see sense. Naruto shook her head, attempting to contain her emotions. If you go, who will you spar with? Who will encourage and support you? Who will assist you in realizing your goals? Who else except Sakura-chan, Kakashi-sensei, and myself? Orochimaru, was the emotionless reply. He's just taking advantage of you. Your body is what he wants. Your Sharingan, your Kekkei Genkai. Nothing positive will happen with Sasuke-kun. This is possible. I'm sure that if you go to him, you'll die. That fucking seal is something you detest. Naruto gasped as her best friend/crush responded in a way that made her feel sick. He will use you, and when he can no longer use you, he will throw you aside like a used, broken toy. Don't you remember your second goal? Did you not want to revive your tribe and re-establish the Konoha military police? Outside of the village, that isn't feasible. Kakashi-sensei had been opening up and providing small pieces about his life during the Third Shinobi War, along with information about his squad and his own sensei, as the four of them had been growing closer. He had enumerated them before announcing that he planned to kill his brother after all, and she was sure that those objectives had been more important to him when their ninja careers began. How in the hell had things changed? Her teammates' responses were still very apparent to her. Sakura had squealed and started talking about how lucky Kaka-sensei was to be a student of the famous Kiroi Senko, the second shinobi to ever get the flea on sight command. She would have missed the joyful glimmer in Sasuke's eyes, who was also impatient, if she hadn't been so good at reading body language. They might learn some of his secrets, including the jutsu that had made him famous as Hiraishin no Jutsu. All those dreams now seemed to have been shattered and scattered across the floor between them. As she watched Sasuke intently, Naruto thought, I dread calling on Kyuubi if he wants to battle more. I may be a Jinchuriki, but I don't like relying on the chakra of my bijou. It hurt a lot to utilize Kyuubi's chakra. The first time she summoned Gamabunta, she was sore and fainted from the agony and the depletion of the chakra. She would have spent the entire week in bed if it weren't for the last part of the Chunin exam the next day. Furthermore, even though it had lessened to a throbbing ache, the fact that she was still sore from using the chakra the day before had exacerbated the discomfort. Stupid Niji. Specifically, what was Yandame-sama thinking when he gave her a tool that hurt her to use? However, she was deviating from the topic. Why didn't Sasuke remember that he had assured them both that if he could avoid using the curse seal, he would never do so and that they would grow stronger together? Why couldn't he hear what she was saying? Where had her cool-headed best buddy gone to? Where had her sensible voice gone? Where had he gone? She thought he was absorbed in his thoughts. Naruto was trying to take as much of Kyuubi's chakra as she could without going insane, so she didn't have time to respond even though she could see it coming a mile away. With his hand cocked back as far as it would go, Sasuke sprang at her again, this time with speed and force, delivering the most excruciating hit he could. When Sasuke heard Naruto's left arm snap with a satisfying crack, he smiled. He attempted to punch her again, but her hand rose and stopped his, and she let out a lovely scream of pain. He was tempted to suggest that her nails were claws because they were so long. The cute whisker lines that had always been on her face were darker and more pronounced than ever when he gazed at her face. According to history books, her eyes opened with bleeding red pupils that looked like those of a Namikaze or a fox. Sasuke remembered reading that the fox summoning contract had been held by the Namikaze clan since before the Sage of Six Paths appeared. With every generation they had become more like foxes, and they had to hide these characteristics. They had to employ a concealment jutsu ever since they were born because they were initially like the Inuzuka and needed to be made to look more animalistic through the use of jutsu. They could use chakra to construct an infinite number of tails to show the vastness of their reserves, and they could channel chakra into their ears to make them more fox-like, according to one of the ancient bingo books he had looked at. The Namikaze ears and the chakra tails he now saw on Naruto were different in that the Namikaze tails were genuine, not made of chakra. Naruto appeared positively vicious to Sasuke. Naruto refused to lie down and let Orochimaru take her best buddy because, in essence, she had stolen him. She wasn't here to murder Sasuke, she was here to bring him back to reality. But after just one more tale, she discovered that her vision was fuzzy and that she might lose her high cognitive skills. Then she punched him back as hard as she could, saying, "I'll take you back to the village, Sasuke, despite the fact that it will break every bone in your body." She told him in a whisper that she was so sure that if he let it, she would. "Hey, you can try, Dobe," he growled back, ready to kill her if he had the chance. "You're asking for a beating, team," Naruto muttered, winced again, and asked Sakura, "What if she was a clanless nobody? Could it be that he was the last of a huge clan?" "You have my challenge, try it," he retaliated. They fought like that for a while until he activated his curse seal to match the one tail of Kyuubi's chakra that she was using, and he would admit that he might look kind of cool like that. But was that power really worth the price he paid for it? No, she didn't think so, and he hadn't either, so what had happened? She had never tried any of the techniques to enhance her hearing before, but the easiest one was to simply channel chakra into her ears, so she chose to try that first. She closed her eyes and watched him leave, but she couldn't hear him. Where was he? Sasuke's eyes widened as her ears, which he had always liked, gradually changed shape, first becoming angular at the tips, then stretching out and starting to resemble an animal's ears, a fox in particular. "And Namikaze?" Sasuke breathed, knowing that he had just given himself away, but not caring at all. The Namikaze had been given the kill on sight order for one reason and one reason only. They were the most reliable teammates or ally a shinobi could ever find anywhere. Naruto's ears pricked up as he heard Sasuke scream. "Found you, Sakuen!" She giggled, and then she charged at him, smacking him in the gut until he nearly passed out. He returned the blow with equal vigor, leaving her reeling. Since this would be his final attack, he had to make it matter. "I need to make this matter because I will lose Sasuke if I don't reach him right away." Naruto barely had enough energy for one more blow, so she shook her head and stayed still. Team 7 would be annihilated, permanently harmed. "Hey, Nachan, isn't that a good enough warm-up?" In joking, Sasuke asked, Naruto began to growl and snarl. Sakuen, don't mess with me. I'll carry you back myself even if it means breaking both of your limbs and legs. With a slight grimace, Sasuke smiled and activated the second level of his cursed seal. She could scarcely think now, but it was even more difficult. That wasn't my Sakuen! The fox-haired girl gasped, then growled as she took out more of Kyuubi's chakra. She formed the cross-hand seal while standing there, creating a Kage Bunshin. She extended her hand while seeing Sasuke as her clone helped her make the Rasengan, one of the attacks developed by Kiroi Senko. Sasuke, or the creature utilizing his skin, began to prepare a Chidori while Naruto created a Rasengan. When both strikes were prepared, they made a final lunge and struck each other in the center of the waterfall. Chidori! Rasengan! As they hit their targets, they both sobbed at the same time. Then, inexplicably, both fighters collapsed onto solid ground and passed out, nearly on top of each other. Team 7, not present? At last, one of the fallen began to move, his eyes slowly opening. What the hell? He groaned as he stood up. How the hell did I get here? As he looked around, he asked. My last clear memory is of being bitten by that guy, Orochimaru, in the jungle during the second part of the Chunin exam. Sasuke glanced over his shoulder and said, Na-chan? Na-chan? What the devil? What happened? Only Kaka-sensei's Chidori could do that to a human, he concluded as he saw the hole in her chest. No. Na-chan, what did I do to you? He hazily remembered making a vow to never use the seal that Orochimaru had given him, to grow stronger with his Na-chan, his annoying sister Sakura-chan, and Kaka-sensei, and to fulfill their dreams together. Hang on, Na-chan, I'll get you back to Konoha safe and sound, I won't let you die here. He told her as he picked her up, knowing that she couldn't hear him. Who would help me fulfill my dreams of restarting the Konoha military police and reviving my clan? He had to get her back to Konoha as soon as possible because she needed medical attention 5 minutes ago. Sasuke looked more closely and saw that the hole in Na-chan's chest wasn't healing as it should have. Without you, Na-chan, I couldn't do it. Sasuke leapt away from the ruble of the founder's statues, running as fast as he could in his worn-out state. He was remembering bits and pieces of his last battle with his crush and flinched. He'd said a lot of things that he would never mean, things that he had thought he would never say to her. He hated himself, but what he remembered that was most surprising was the fact that her ears had become blonde-furred fox ears with white tips. He remembered that that was something only a Namikaze could do. The heir to the clan, if he or she was ever found, was going to be put under the Clan Restoration Act, like he was currently. There was only one way to get out of that act, and that was to marry before the age of 16. It looked like his Na-chan was the heir to the Namikaze clan. To protect her and himself from the CRA, he had to ask her to marry him, and he had to do it soon. Sasuke grimaced at how much blood she was losing and pushed his tired legs to go faster. If he didn't get back to the village soon, the Namikaze heir was going to die. As he started to leap through the branches, he whispered in her ear, Hang on, Na-chan, just a little longer, please. Team 7, not present? On his route to the spot where Sasuke and Naruto had last been spotted, Kakashi pushed himself to walk as fast as he could. Just a month ago, Sasuke started acting strangely out of character, which worried the entire team, despite their best efforts to continue as usual. He had to put an end to this madness. It was getting harder and harder to accept that his baby sister's soul had been eaten by the Kyuubi, with Irika's help. Then he would start teaching them all how to play. as he had learned from Minato-sensei. After joining the squad, Rin and Obito were equally worried, but they were able to keep up without any problems at the moment. How much farther, Pakin? His voice was growing increasingly frantic. Father Kakashi, don't be alarmed. Pakin noted the anxiety in his partner's voice and remarked, You can see that the signatures are truly approaching us. He had grown close to Kakashi's pups while he was with them throughout the invasion. Really? Kakashi activated his senses around them and rapidly identified the chakra signatures of Naruto and Sasuke. They were drawing near. Thank Kami-sama! That one of them is strong enough to carry the other. Though he was still in a panic, he was able to control it now that he knew one of them was well enough to care for the other. Maybe he should invest money in teaching all 3 of his students at least the most basic medical ninjutsu. He inhaled. They pushed themselves even harder to meet Kakashi's pupils. Team 7, not present? Sasuke smiled and exclaimed, Kaka-sensei, as he noticed Kakashi swiftly approaching. Na-chan needs assistance, he yelled, and he made a little more effort to meet his sensei in the middle of the clearing. Because he was carrying Naruto, Sasuke was obviously the less injured of his 2 students, but his Minato didn't look good. Kakashi stopped a few feet away to observe them and asked, What happened, Sasuke? He asked, a bit cautiously. Sasuke had been acting strangely, but now it seemed that he was back to normal. But he had to make sure. Was he okay? Why are you asking about me, Kaka-sensei? Na-chan will pass away if we don't bring her to the hospital right now. Tears threatened to fall from his eyes. Why did Kaka-sensei choose now to play favorites with him? Maybe a more direct approach would work. But how much more direct could he be? Na-chan has an enormous hole in her chest. I'm so tired that I might not be able to get her there in time to save her. I'm also injured. But Na-chan. Na-chan. Kakashi just whispered. Keep up, as he pulled his Minato out of her teammate's arms and started running back toward the hamlet. Hey! As he struggled to stay ahead of his sensei, Sasuke called and remembered. Did I really come close to being trash? Sasuke thought. Despite his promise to himself that he would never become his brother, he nearly killed his best buddy. It was too much of a regret. He would get the Mangekyo if she passed away, but would it be worth it? It would be fantastic if he got it from this. However, if she did die. Sensei? Yes, Sasuke? Asked Kakashi. Is it possible to transform into someone else? His student asked quietly. No, I will never be my father, no matter how hard I may try to be, and I will never be my sensei, even if I knew how to use the Hiraishin. Kakashi said. You will never be your brother. Sasuke was happy. He told me that to get the next level of the Sharingan, I had to kill my best friend. After meeting Na-chan for the first time after the massacre, I vowed to never try to obtain it. It would hurt too much. Na-chan is my best friend. I have no idea how this happened. He acknowledged. I feel like I've woken up from a very long dream. Sasuke. Kakashi breathed out. They said, I will accept any punishment Hokage-sama sees fit to give me, no matter how harsh, because it's what I deserve for nearly killing Na-chan. The rest of the ride was silent. Team 7, not present? Tsunade had just informed Shikamaru that Chuji's mission had been successful when the doors crashed open and yelling could be heard. Tsunade-sama, the voice. Na-chan. Was that Sasuke's? All right, it was. She turned to see Naruto bleeding and a limping Sasuke and a hurrying Kakashi approaching her with a bucket. Hokage-sama, Sasuke pleaded. Please help Na-chan, because if you don't, she'll die. Shizen! Prepare as a team, or three, Tsunade remarked. Oh my god, Naruto! Hang in there, Naruto. If the little bastard was right, they had very little time to begin functioning at all since her tiny replacement was on thin ice, and the ice was getting thinner by the second. He said as he collapsed into a seat. You're safe now, Na-chan. It struck Tsunade at that moment. While Minato and Kushina were dating and married, she remembered being around them and calling Kushina Kuchan and Minakuen or Mikuen. She hoped that Sasuke would never attempt to run for Naruto's sake alone again because it was happening again. But she had a kunoichi to save, so she could worry about that later. Team 7, not present? The Konoha Shinobi and civilian councils met in a separate part of the village to decide the destiny of a shinobi and kunoichi. Almost 10 hours later, Tsunade emerged from the third operating room to find Shikamaru, Sasuke, and Kakashi no longer alone. Sasuke and Sakura seemed to have been crying on each other's shoulders as Sakura, Ino Hinata, and Irika came during the wait. When they heard Irika's approach, they all turned to look at Kakashi, who was holding her. It was Sasuke who spoke first. His Sharingan eyes were rapidly changing from a pinwheel to the three tomo, and he sounded almost panicked. How is Na-chan doing? Is she going to make it? She's stable now. We almost lost her several times. I'm surprised that she was still alive when we got her to the operating room, Tsunade told them. Everyone who was waiting felt a collapse. Shikamaru, congratulations on retrieving Uchiha Sasuke. Your first mission as a Chunin was a success. All that's left is to punish him. I will tell you now, it will lighter than it would have been. As he carried Naruto as far as he could, I will submit to any punishment you see fit to give me, Hokage-sama, he said quietly. I will even leave the village if that is what you decree. Sasuke sagged in bitter relief, knowing that he was solely to blame, and that his dreams of reviving his clan and resuming the military police were a small price to pay compared to what he had almost forced Na-chan to pay. His Na-chan was the most incredible person in the world, and the fact that he had almost killed her. Tsunade remarked. That won't be necessary, Sasuke, and shook her head. Sasuke's head raised, but he held back from speaking because he was worried she may change her mind. I haven't decided what your punishment will be just yet. You may go visit her in a bit when she is settled into her room. Tsunade's gaze widened. In the meantime, you can give me your account of what happened. Kakashi, you come also. Kakashi and Sasuke nodded and followed the Hokage after taking one last look at the OR's doors. Are you okay, Naruto? Kakashi asked, but got no response. Following the Hokage and his sensei made Sasuke feel as if he was missing months of his life. He was remembering fragments, but they were scattered like parts of a puzzle, and Sasuke was positive he was missing a few. After a while, it was hard to make sense of anything because the fragments he could remember were out of any real order. Tsunade came over to her desk and sat down, saying, Sit, both of you, as the three of them went into her hospital office and closed the door. Knowing that there was nothing else he could give her to punish him for, Sasuke sat obediently. Tsunade's sudden comment, Sasuke, caused the already frightened child shinobi to tremble and jump a little in his seat. Yeah, Hokage-sama Godain? Asked Sasuke in a subdued, respectful voice. Can you give a detailed account of the events leading up to, during, and following your defection and battle with Naruto at the Valley of the End? She inquired. Sasuke raised his eyebrows. I will certainly do my best, Hokage-sama. He began. The last clear memory I have is getting bitten by Orochimaru team. After that, I only remember bits and pieces, but I will try to paint as clear a picture as possible. Tsunade encouraged, less forcefully than before. Go on, tell us all you can. Well, as I mentioned, I can't really recall what I did to our opponents after I woke up in the middle of an Oto ninja attack, but I'm pretty sure we met up with Kabuto and fought some AIM Shinobi, Sasuke said, nodding as he closed his eyes to try to arrange his jumbled memories. After that, we didn't be assaulted, and I think we made it to the tower unharmed. I can't be more exact than that, but I'm pretty sure it was an early match, and I also fought one of Kabuto's teammates during the third round's preliminary round. Didn't you, Sensei, seal the curse mark Hibi team gave me, or at least try to? That I did, nodded Kakashi. Well, it worked somewhat, for a while, because after that I clearly remember telling Nachan and Sakura that I would not use the thing if I could help it. I remember the month of training as well, but not quite as clearly. I do remember, vaguely, fighting Gaara in the third round and the invasion. I'm sorry, but fighting Gaara during the invasion is really hazy because I was forced to use the Hiki of Doom, as Naruto put it. I can barely remember the talk Kaka-sensei and I had about precious people, but not long after Sensei left. I had a fight with the guys that kidnapped me. That night I remember wondering why I was packing when everything I needed to fulfill my goals were at my fingertips here in Konoha. Sasuke bit his lip, trying to remember more. After that, I don't remember anything, just waking up, almost on top of Nachan, and Nachan having 2 holes in her chest, bleeding badly, and finally, trying to get back to the village as fast as I possibly could so that she wouldn't die. Sasuke was making a valiant effort to protect his closest friend from the CRA because he was unsure of their reaction to Nachan's status as a Namikaze and didn't want her placed under the CRA in any way. His head was bowed, trying to hide the tears in his eyes, and he was not looking at the Hokage or his sensei. His response was, "That's all I remember." At last. He hated to lie to Sensei and his leader, but he had to keep Nachan safe just now. Tsunade and Kakashi were a little startled. "What kind of seal?" began Kakashi. "It not only warps a person's personality, but it also throws off their mental equilibrium." Tsunade came to the conclusion, since Sasuke's very sanity might be at stake, it was lucky that Jiraiya was in town. In addition, the prospect of potentially eliminating another dedicated ninja with the same type of seal was too good to refuse. They had to know even if either of them knew, and they weren't sure they wanted to. Team 7, not present? For a long time, Hamura and Kohara had made sure that the proxies for the Namikaze and the Uzumaki, 2 of the most important clans in Konoha, one being foreign royalty, the other being the famous Fox clan, were on their side. Meanwhile, in the council chambers a few buildings away, the civilian council and the leaders of the main and lesser ninja clans were gathering. They would have the support of every minor tribe and every citizen. "This meeting is now in session," declared Danzu, who was seated at the head of the table. As he and the other elders thought they were assisting the Hokage, they would select different punishments for 2 of the anxious genin, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke, who both need some kind of discipline, while she was in charge of the mission reports. Danza desired both genin for apparent reasons, or at least what he thought they were. First, they both needed to be properly trained. Second, Naruto and Sasuke were a set and very close. Third, even though he wanted them en route, they wouldn't really work well with the program. They seemed to fight their hardest and could suddenly pull power when their emotions ran high. And fourth, Naruto was a Jinchuriki and would be Konoha's secret weapon. Thus, training them himself was the natural answer. Naruto deserved a larger reward for successfully bringing Sasuke back, and Sasuke needed some kind of punishment because he did abandon the village, but this council would never allow it. Hamura stated clearly, "There are two things on the agenda today." Following the conclusion of the mass, the punishments of Uchiha Sasuke for trying to leave, and Uzumaki Naruto for hurting Uchiha Sasuke more than necessary to bring him back. He stated. Naruto's name was Uzumaki, the foreign royalty, or at least the name she bore for her own security, and Danza thought it was funny that these simpletons didn't care. Her father had lied to Hokage simply to get at the girl, but it was plain that his attempts had failed. Her father's name was visible to everyone with eyes. Danza was superior to what Hokage was positive the other two were preparing, and although he would never want to give Danza his charge, there was no reason for the lie to go on. Why would his late friend's former teammates choose to kill the girl or banish her when there were other alternatives? It would be better for them to worry about the boy rather than her loyalty. Let's tend to Sasuke first. Do you have any ideas on what we ought to do? Kohara asked with a smile. A civilian who had just stood up stated, "We think that he attempted to leave because of Uzumaki. I move that we pardon the poor boy." Are you serious? Uzumaki was only trying to reclaim Uchiha when he attempted to commit treason. He must be punished in some way. Danza complained as Hayashi stood up to argue. I think we should wait to make a decision on this matter until we have all the information. Danza responded. I agree, however, seeing as he brought his injured teammate back to the village and his personality has taken a 180, we should consider lessening his punishment a little bit, if only slightly. If Uchiha had not brought her back as fast as he did Hayashi, she would most likely have died. Hayashi responded. I see, but not punishing him at all is what I'm against. I say we put him on probation for at least a year and have Inoichi do a psych evaluation every other week. If by the end of the year he can prove to us sufficiently that he is loyal, then we will take him off probation. But I would like to restrict him to missions inside the village for a further 6 months, just in case. What if he hasn't shown himself after that year, then? What would you have us do? Said Danza curiously. We lengthen his probation, and if he causes trouble we could always let him sit in a cell for a few days to a week, Hayashi replied. It was an excellent punishment. When Hamura said, Let's vote then, he smiled. Raise your hands if you support Uchiha Sasuke's pardon. Danzu, Hayashi, and the other major ninja clans watched in horror as the proxies for Naruto's 2 clans raised their hands along with the civilians and weaker clans. Even though they knew they had lost this time, Danzu and the major clans raised their hands and declared, Just for Hayashi's recommendation? Then it has been decided, Uchiha Sasuke will be pardoned. Inoichi leaned over to speak with Hayashi and Danzu. I don't care if Uchiha is pardoned, I am still going to request that Hokage-sama send him to me at least once a month, and I definitely want to see him before he starts doing missions again, she remarked. I will make sure to suggest it to her, Danzu replied. Since he is pardoned now, there is nothing we can do about it, but I will suggest to her to keep the missions Team 7 stay in the village for a while, though we might have to cut the 6 months down to 3. The other large clans nodded when Hayashi shrugged. As long as he is punished somehow, they said. What if we gave them special training of some kind? Who among us trained with and knew Minato and Kushina the best? Chiza said seriously. Naruto and Sakura don't deserve to be held in the village. According to Tsum, the faithful puppies don't deserve to be punished also. Danzu addressed the council as a whole, and each member nodded in agreement. That's a smart concept, but before we tackle the Uzumaki problem, how about we take an hour-long lunch break to rest? And someone make sure that Hatake is here this time, Danza said. He should have some say in the judgments they were making concerning his students' futures, after all. Team 7, not present? Team 7 was shocked to find Jiraiya in Naruto's room when they arrived. Jiraiya-sama, I wasn't expecting you to be here, Kakashi said softly as Sakura and Tsunade helped Sasuke sit on the other bed in the room so he could get the medical attention he had been denying himself until he knew Naruto was better. Although I probably should have, Sensei wouldn't trust anyone but you and me with her care. Jiraiya looked up at his pupil and said, What do you mean, Kakashi? Sakura was holding the other man's hand as Kakashi knelt down next to Jiraiya and began running his fingers through her hair while he watched Tsunade tend to Sasuke. I mean that as he lay there dying, Minato-sensei asked me to look after her while you were on missions, he remarked. Minato would do it, Jiraiya said with a laugh. Furthermore, what kind of discipline would you apply to Uchiha? With his attention on the ninja he was tending to, he inquired. He put her in this condition. I'll probably send him to Inoichi, once before missions and then maybe twice a month after that, and even though I hate punishing Sakura, for at least trying to keep him in the village before he ran, and Naruto, for succeeding in bringing him back, I'll probably restrict missions to inside the village walls for a while, though I don't know for how long. Jiraiya responded, I wouldn't mind training Naruto-chan while you deal with Uchiha, thank you. I know about your vices, but please try to be attentive of her. I will. Sasuke bowed his head as he heard the conversation turn to his punishment. Although he thought it was a little mild, he knew that his punishment would be less harsh than normal because he had returned by himself and was holding Naruto as if she were about to break. I'm sorry for causing so much trouble, Hokage-sama. If that were words. Tsunade said Kakashi. Gaki, at least you returned. That's all that matters right now. While you are dealing out his punishment, I can take Sakura on as a part-time apprentice so that you have more time to deal with him. Kakashi murmured, Thank you, Tsunade-sama, and bowed his head. How do you feel about it, Sakura? Would you be interested in being our medic nin? It would make good use of your flawless chakra control, and I can still recall the exercises Sensei gave Rin to strengthen her reserves. If you'd like, I can teach them to you. Sakura stated as she woke up. I wish I could meet Kaka-sensei. I haven't been really useful to the team. I can't wait to start. Kakashi nodded and reached over to ruffle her hair, saying, Therefore, Tsunade-sama, would you be willing to teach Naruto-chan and Sasuke the very basic of the medical ninjutsu, after his punishment is complete? Sakura became like a sister to Naruto and a daughter to him after learning the truth in Wave. Ino had started to alter after the Chunin exams. As the door opened and Inuzuka-sama appeared in the doorway, everyone glanced up. Hatake, come on, there's a council meeting going on. With one eye blinking, Kakashi questioned. If there's a meeting, why wasn't I called earlier? I don't know, but the council is deciding what to do with your students. They've already decided to pardon Uchiha. Everyone gasped and exclaimed. But I tried to go, Sasuke grumbled. I deserve some sort of punishment. All the major clans agreed except for them. Some told them all. Hayashi wanted to put you on probation for a year with visits to Inoichi, and then, if you had proved your loyalty by the end of the year, you'd be allowed to take missions again, restricted to the village only for 6 months. I was thinking along the same lines, Kakashi remarked. As was I, Tsunade said. Some dragged Kakashi out of the room and stated, We have a meeting to get to, Hokage-sama. I'll return Hatake-sensei when we are done. Go then, and be careful of the elders. And Kakashi, I'll have your answer when you get back. Tsunade stated, nodding in understanding. Some nodded and said, Come on, closing the door. Is something strange happening? He asked. Kakashi nodded. They ran down the corridor to the hospital's exit, and Sim told him, Yes, Danzo is actually on our side for once, although no one is sure what the hell he's planning. The Uzumaki and the Namikaze clan proxies voted with the civilians, and they are supposed to have Naruto's best interests in mind. It's troubling that they chose the pardon rather than a more severe punishment. I have a bad feeling that this next part of the meeting is going to be even worse for us. Kakashi insisted on arriving early for counseling sessions even though he hated them. That is very troubling, he remarked. And with Naruto-chan being in critical condition, he was unable to finish his comment. Danzo is on our side, strangely enough, Sim said with a serious nod, as the baby who had been their hero for a few hours after her birth was not doing well. Kakashi asked, somewhat jokingly. Oh really? Then, should we be concerned that he is planning something? It's not certain, but he might. He wants to keep Naruto-sama in the village. But other than that, we don't know what he might be planning. We all know he wants her en route. Feeling sick to his stomach, Kakashi nodded as they headed to the counseling center and went inside. Well, here goes everything, he began. He had some ideas about how to train Sasuke and Naruto, and he wanted to teach them how to be emotionless in battle, if not elsewhere. He would need Kakashi's help, and he needed Hatake to want to keep the girl in the village, so he opened his mouth and said, Perhaps it wasn't such a good thing to lie about Naruto being Kyuubi to one of her protectors. Danzo grinned a little as he watched Kakashi slide into the Hatake seat. Only Tsum, who had pulled him here, saw him enter, so he nodded to her discreetly. Kakashi's back tensed as he glared at Danzo, saying, I had already figured that out, but it's nice to hear you admit that you lied. His voice was a low snarl, and he hoped Minato-sensei would forgive him for not seeing the truth this once. He had been disillusioned by the lie since he had been assigned as her sensei. But his Iruka had helped him see his baby sister for who she was, and when he had heard that Jiraiya was in the village for the Chunin exams, he had pleaded with the man to take her as his student for at least that month so that he could also bond with her. Fortunately, the man that sensei had seen as a father had agreed, and that had been a burden lifted off his shoulders and one less thing he'd had to worry about. Although he was ready for almost anything, Kakashi was unprepared when Kohara started to accept suggestions for punishments for his sister for completing her mission to get Sasuke back. Her father's clan proxy's suggestion of execution, however, completely confused him. Kakashi worried his lip under his mask. He couldn't help but worry about his younger sister, so he made sure to keep an ear open. At that one idea, Minato-sensei was likely rolling in his grave, but Kakashi said, Now wait just a second! After it had been made. You are expected to act solely in my sensei's clan's best interests. Furthermore, I can assure you that what you just proposed isn't. When Kushina-san saw the Uzumaki proxy, he nodded as well. The Namikaze proxy remarked, almost sarcastically, So, what do you recommend we do, Hatake-san? Naruto completed her mission, she does not deserve punishment. Kakashi turned to the two individuals he shouldn't have been discussing this matter with. She deserves a reward, maybe an evaluation and promotion, and if not that then some kind of special training to help her achieve her goal. I know of at least one person who would have no problem taking her on. and there is no one else that I would trust more. Besides, the person I'm thinking of has already trained a Hokage, so we know that he'd do his best. Oh? The Uzumaki proxy asked. And Hataki-san, who would that be? Jiraiya-sama, was all Kakashi answered. And, as he is often out of the village on business as our spy master, he can take her with him if you don't want her here. She must be punished for harming the Uchiha, Hamira said, raising her eyebrows. She is also said to have used its chakra. Sasuke was carrying Naruto when I discovered them, and she was unconscious with a hole in her chest. Furthermore, Sensei created his seal so that she could utilize his chakra. Since Kyubi-sama was unquestionably not in it, Kakashi argued, stressing the usage of the male pronoun. Hokage-sama approved the use of whatever power was required to bring him back. Enough! Shouted Danzu. I could also train her. I believe that Uzumaki without Uchiha is rather pointless. Wouldn't you say, Kakashi? He thought Kakashi's suggestion was a good reward, and Jiraiya was her godfather and would die before letting anything happen to her. It would also get her out of the village, which these idiots apparently wanted. In order to keep her out of sight and out of mind, I may train her in the root facilities that I have established. Danza stated. Said Kakashi. Sasuke and Naruto are rather close. It is almost like watching Minato-sensei and Kushina-sen fight as a team again, but I'm not sure I'd be comfortable leaving either with you for training. I could easily allow you to observe any training you want, Danza told him courteously, not wanting to insult the youngster. Kakashi was still working on something, but at least it was something. What was the question? Those suggestions are noted. Any further suggestions regarding what to do with Uzumaki? Koharu concluded their argument. Koharu exclaimed. Go into exile, a citizen said as they got to their feet. Hamira remarked. All right, after noticing that no one else had any recommendations. Is that it? The 3 that get the most votes will be given to Hokage-sama to choose amongst them. All for execution, raise your hands. All of the members of the Civilian Council, with the exception of the Namikaze and the Uzumaki proxies, naturally raised their hands, but none of the shinobi did so because they knew that, even though she was dangerous, Uzumaki was a valuable tool to have on hand and that, if she was hidden away for training, it would be better to have her inside the village with Danza or outside with Jiraiya. Raising their hands, Kakashi and 2 other lesser clan members said, All for let Jiraiya-sama to have her? When asked, letting Danza have her and her teammate? The majority of shinobi clan members raised their hands. Hamira turned around and remarked, Exile? As Koharu noted who had received the most votes. All right, that's the vote, Koharu stated, and the other hands went up. We'll take this to Hokage-sama for the final decision. This meeting is now adjourned. Kakashi wasn't the only person glaring after them as they walked away, seemingly confident in their victory, and everyone stood and began to converse. They have no idea what they're doing, Kakashi murmured. I'm afraid that we failed you, Sensei. They are going to throw her out or create a weapon out of our hero. To make matters worse, by doing this, they were all disparaging his sensei and the sacrifice he and his daughter had made that night, the night of her birth. Lamenting, Niji and Hinata will not like this, Hayashi said. And Noichi shook his head in agreement, saying, Ino is going to kick up such a fuss. Some muttered, I never thought Konoha would sink so low. As the last person not on their side left the room. None of our children, I believe, will. Ma, this is so annoying. What should we do? Shikaka let out a moan. Even though Chusa admitted, I'm not sure, but one thing is for sure. What is that, too? Shinobi asked. There will be a rebellion brewing, the younger generation against the elder. Kakashi wrote with a sly smile. But it will be Shinobi against civilian. Shikaka laughed. I can see how that would happen. Naruto is being punished for completing a high-ranked mission. It's making me nervous about taking higher-ranked ones myself. He commented. If she is banished, we could just organize a mass exodus and leave the village to rot. All of the ninja in the room could hear Kakashi whispering. Minato-sensei wouldn't want that. He'd want us to keep going. He would want our village to be saved. But is Konoha even worth saving? Asked Hayashi. Shinobi sighed and continued. I can't help but think that we failed him. All of them had known Minato personally in one way or another. Hayashi and his twin had been his colleagues, Kakashi had been his student, Tsum had been his long-desired older sister, and the Ino Shikicho had been his greatest pals. We'll come up with something, Kakashi. We'll think of something, I guarantee it, he said, looking up when a hand landed on his shoulder, and it was Inoichi. Kakashi, who was like a bratty nephew to all of Minato's friends, had at least tried to check in on Naruto occasionally because he had been bad after Obito, Rin, and Minato died. Now, he just looked broken. Inoichi-san, thank you, smiled Kakashi. Tsum replied. We'd better go tell the pups about this, and got to his feet. The complaint from Inoichi was, Ino is going to throw a fit. Shikaka smiled slightly and said, Kakashi, why don't you take Sasuke and Sakura and practice for a while? They're all going to have a tantrum or act like Kakashi here. You can inform them while you are all preoccupied that Naruto cannot be cast out until she is completely recovered. Kakashi got up and stated, That's probably a good idea. The clan heads all stood up as well, helping Kakashi as much as they could before falling asleep with their own kids. Team 7, not present? Hinata was sitting next to Niji when Hayashi walked into the boys' hospital room. Niji, Hinata, I have some bad news, Hayashi remarked. They immediately took notice of that, and Hinata said softly, What's wrong, father? She was always after Naruto like a lost puppy, and it was no secret that she thought of him as her best friend. Naruto had taken the girl under his wing after noticing her soon after they got to the academy. Yes, Hayashi-sama, what is going on? Responded Niji, who had gotten reasonably close to the girl after their combat in the Chunin test finals. Is Naruto involved in this? Is our most recent mission related to this? Niji exclaimed. Yes, it does. Sasuke has been pardoned for leaving the village and... Hayashi groaned sadly, hating Niji for possessing such wisdom. Hinata spluttered. What? Niji nodded, showing that he agreed with his younger cousin. Hayashi was staring blankly at both of the younger ninja. He doesn't deserve it. I know that, but that's what happened. But I'm pretty sure that Kakashi will be punishing the boy, even if he was pardoned. But that's not all, said the head of Hyuga. Why do I feel like I'm sinking right now? Niji wondered. Out with it, father, Hayashi replied when Hinata and Niji looked at each other. I don't know, but I have it too, Niji and I-san. The council has decided that Naruto be made into a weapon, banishment, or execution, Hayashi stated, nodding, his placid voice betraying his disapproval of the proposal. What? Team 7, not present? Kiba and his sister Hana looked up as the door to Kiba's room opened, and their mother emerged. What's wrong, Mom? You look like the world is about to end, Kiba retorted. Hana, how do you feel about Naruto and the Uchiha? Tsum asked her daughter. Hana remarked. She's a nice girl, I like her. I wouldn't have minded if she had been adopted into the clan. Adding, every clan has been trying to help her in some manner, right, Mother? That's accurate. What about the Uchiha? Some nodded as he spoke. Hana said, turning to Kiba, who moaned and answered, I don't like him much, Mom, but he deserves a bit of leniency because he did bring a nearly dead Naruto-chan back to the village instead of leaving her to die. Kiba quietly said, Pups, they've pardoned the Uchiha and they're planning to make Naruto-chan a weapon, exile her or execute her, groaned Sim, agreeing with her puppies, but they were powerless to stop them at this point. There was complete silence. Even Akamaru startled into silence. Team 7, not present? Shikamaru looked up from his conversation with Chuji as the door to his friend's hospital room opened, wondering if Ino had brought any flowers because he had sent her home to help her mother as a diversion, and was surprised when their father came in and said, Inoichi-san, I sent Ino home if you're looking for her, thanks Shikamaru. Inoichi said as he bowed and left the room, as he would have to tell her in her room back home. Saying, Congratulations on your first successful mission as a Chunin, Shikamaru. Shikaka closed the door behind his friend. Thanks, Dad. However, either you nor Chuza-san have visited to confirm that it's only you, Shikamaru said, looking down. Chuza answered, Unfortunately, no. While the two senior shinobi shook their heads. Don't we wish? Shikaka said in agreement. Tell me about Kyubi's defeat, you two. Shikamaru and Chuji were startled to consciousness, but they were not aware of the true story, which was far more accurate. The version you've always told us, Shikamaru said quietly, says that Yandame-sama was able to defeat the beast, but he needed help. With Naruto-chan's help, he was able to kill the beast, and so, he asked that she be seen as a hero for aiding him in killing the beast. Said, that is the tale. The council, in its infinite wisdom, had decided that she is to be turned into a weapon, banished, or executed. With a sigh, he said, but that's unfair. Shikamaru was in charge, therefore it should be his duty. Shikaka responded, That's right. However, they aren't happy that Naruto has hurt their precious Uchiha, but I'm to blame, if anything, because I instructed Naruto to bring him back in any manner possible. Shikamaru retorted, We know, but no one is blaming you, was a statement that both fathers could not understand. Well, then they ought to be. The group lapsed into a stone stillness as Shikamaru spoke, unsure of what else to say or do. Team 7, not present? Tenten and Lee were talking when their sensei came into his room. My students, I have bad news. Naruto's fate in this village is uncertain. They are thinking of throwing her out, killing her, or taking her free will away, Lee remarked. The pleasant chat they were having about training abruptly ended, and they were looking at Mito Guy as if he had just grown a second head. Is that true, Guy-sensei? Lee stumbled. He had liked the girl enough, her youthful flames burning brilliantly, but he had Sakura-san in his sights. But why? He pondered. He seemed rather depressed too, Guy told them, nodding solemnly. It's true, I'm not really sure. Kakashi wouldn't say anything else, Guy said, questioning whether they would lose a great buddy because the council was being stupid. He would, of course. He is going to lose one of his first students, Tenten retorted. Wouldn't you feel the same if you were in the middle of this, Niji, Lee, or me? Guy smiled and said, I suppose we can excuse his unyouthfulness just this once then. Team 7, not present? Shibi's son, Shino, who had been gathering bugs, returned home. Yes, Dad? Shino said, a little intrigued as his father's voice hardly showed emotion, save perhaps pride. What is it? Shino pondered. How do you feel about Naruto? I don't like her that way, even though she is a great buddy, Shino remarked, turning to face his dad. Should she receive praise or punishment for completing a mission? With a critical look at his son, Shibi inquired. Rewarded, father, remarked Shino. It is the only sensible course of action. Shibi breathed deeply. The council has done something illogical. They have decided that they don't want Naruto around. That means either getting her out of the village, killing her, or hiding her away as she is retrained into an emotionless weapon. You're right, that is illogical. The logical thing to do would be to give her training that will get her closer to her dream, stated Shino. Team 7 not present? Even though she was a civilian, Inoichi made sure his wife never had the same mob mentality regarding the last hidden Namikaze that the other villagers seemed to have when he walked into her flower shop. Ren, is Ino here? He inquired. She's in the back getting ready to bring out some flowers, Red told him from behind the bar. How did the meeting go? Not good at all, Run. They want to get rid of the Namikaze heir, and after everything we've done to protect her, Inoichi responded. She looks more and more like her father every single day. The council voted on several different punishments to recommend to Tsunade-sama. What are punishments for? Bringing the Uchiha back? Ren said incredulously. Are they insane? What are these punishments? I would be really hesitant to accept the higher ranking missions now if I were a ninja. I know, and I am, Inoichi told her, flinching as he waited for Mount Ren to explode. Give her to Danzu, banish her, or execute her. He hurriedly interrupted her to say, I don't agree with any of it, but it would definitely be best to kill her out of those possibilities. Since she is starting to resemble Minato, if Naruto is exiled, she will probably pass away within the first year, and if she is sent to Danzu, we won't see her ever again. Unaware that Team Guy and her fellow classmates were coming to the same conclusion, Ino was cowering behind the back door, not knowing how to respond to the news that her best friend, Naruto-chan, was the daughter of Yandame Hokage and the famous Kiroi Senku. And now the blatantly ignorant council wants to fire her? She asked herself. Team 7, not present? Kakashi, silently, Jiraiya inquired, What's wrong? Jiraiya, Sasuke, and Sakura could see that Kakashi's slouch was different as he wandered into the room. There was an aura of complete despair clinging to him. Naruto is fine. She'll be waking up in the next day or so according to Tsunade. Naruto's godfather trailed off when Kakashi's lone eye met his. After seeming calmer for a few minutes, Kakashi sat heavily beside Naruto's bed and began to run his fingers through her hair, as his sensei had taught him to do. His shoulders shook, but his other two students didn't know what he was doing. Naruto won't be in the village much longer, he said. Sensei, what do you mean by that? Sakura blinked as Sasuke protested. Kakashi mumbled as he retreated. I mean, the council have all but decided her fate. Jiraiya-sama, could you keep an eye on Naruto-chan for me while I catch up with her teammates? Jiraiya nodded and said, Don't worry, she's safe with me. She was his responsibility anyway. Kakashi nodded as he led his other two students out of the room, but he couldn't allow Naruto to overhear him. They went to another training site, the one where Minato-sensei trained him and his teammates after passing the bell test, where a lot of hunting, chasing, and play games took place. Where are we, Kaka-sensei? Sakura asked. As she looked about, she noticed how overgrown the land was. This was the old Team 7's training ground. We aren't at our destination yet, Kakashi told them. But we are almost there, follow me. Sakura and Sasuke sped up to follow their sensei as he disappeared into the trees. Where precisely are we going? Sakura asked. There is a large tree near the center of the forest in this training ground, where my team built a bit of a hideout. The tree was dead, so we hollowed it out. It's impossible to miss, Kakashi told them. We often hunted, explored, chased, and played here. It was our home away from home, really. Sensei and I found the place and created it. We had to enlarge it when Sensei took on 2 more students. This was where I ran to when my father died. His trainees' eyes widened when they arrived at Old Team 7's hiding place. Wow, you never said how big it would be, Sasuke remarked, his hushed voice echoing with astonishment. A curtain covered a hollow entryway at the base of the dead tree, which must have been at least 100 feet high. Several of the thicker, lower branches had simple windows. The clearing around the tree seemed to have several traps inactive but on standby, and another curtain, almost too high to see clearly, hung over an entrance, and what appeared to be a clothesline around the small space. Kaka-sensei, you truly meant it when you said a home away from home, didn't you? Sakura said. This is incredible. How much time did it take to construct? Sensei actually found this place a few months before he took me on as a student. He'd been working on it for at least a month already when he brought me here the first time. It took about 3 more months to get it set up for just the 2 of us. After that, we'd spend about a week here at any give time training. Kakashi told them as he pulled back the curtain and let them inside. I always meant to show you 3, but never got around to it. Sakura and Sasuke stepped into the tree, and it looked like a normal house, like the front room of any ordinary house or apartment, except that it was obviously the inside of a dead tree. The walls were stained and had a beautiful sheen, and between them was a low coffee table with several pictures on it, including one of Kakashi and his sensei with a woman, and in a couple of them, the beautiful red-headed Kunoichi, who could be nothing else, looked as though she was in the latter stages of her pregnancy. A spiral staircase, which seemed to be built into the wall, led to the next floor, and on the walls were several framed pictures of 5 people at various events, one of whom seemed to be a wedding photo, while the others were at a festival or were simply relaxing. The staircase goes all the way up to the top of the base, Kakashi said, as he observed his students looking about, Sakura examining the pictures on the table and Sasuke examining the framed photos on the walls. Sakura remarked, "Who were these, sensei?" as she took up the picture of Kakashi's own genin squad Minato. "Those were my teammates, Sakura," Kakashi admitted. "This would be challenging because Naruto might never make it here. The girl was an aspiring medic, her name was Rin, and she was one of my best friends before she went missing. The one between her and I is Obito. He was a Uchiha. He was the one who told me that, and gave me my Sharingan eye. The tall blonde is Minato-sensei. He told us that he was orphaned soon after he started at the academy, and that his favorite people in all the village were his Kaibyoka-sama and Shinowani-sama. We never really found out anything about them, but I'm sure there's a picture of them somewhere in this place. Oh wow," was Sakura's breath. Looking more closely at the wedding photo, Sasuke remarked. "Kaka-sensei, who's that gorgeous redhead?" he remarked. "She's in a lot of these photos." "That's Kushina-san, Minato-sensei's wife. I think he married her when we were in Konoha just before my first mission as a jounin," replied Kakashi. "Any picture that doesn't have Obito where I'm wearing my Hittite like I am now and it was taken after that disastrous mission. I'm sorry, sensei," murmured Sasuke in the last complete picture of old Team 7+1. "It's alright, it happened a long time ago," Kakashi reassured them. "It still hurts, but now that I have you it doesn't hurt as much." After saying Come sit, we aren't here to talk about that. He walked over and took a hard seat on one of the wooden couches. After Sakura carefully sat down in one of the seats and discovered it was incredibly comfy, Sasuke came over and took a seat on the other couch, similarly amazed that it was as comfortable as it looked. What did you need, sensei? Sasuke asked. Sasuke, you already know that you've been pardoned. I am still going to punish you, however. Kakashi glared at his lone male student. I know, and I will not protest, Sasuke said, instantly gazing down in shame. But that's not all that happened, Sasuke, Sakura, we could be losing Naruto permanently, Kakashi added, nodding in agreement. Sakura's voice was tremulous as she whispered, What do you mean? Since she is almost as good at reading people as Naruto, she was able to see the fear and desperation in Sasuke's eyes, even though they had only slightly enlarged. We can't lose her. We aren't Team 7 without her, she said, referring to Naruto as both her sister and best friend. Yes, we are losing her, Kakashi remarked with a clumsy somber nod. Now that Sakura and Sasuke were surrounded by the same depressing aura that had surrounded Kakashi, what should we do? Sakura asked. We cannot let this happen, Sasuke exclaimed, showing the most emotion he had in a while. There were tears in his eyes. That's not right. Do you not think that I know that? But there is nothing we can do. All we can do is wait for Tsunade-sama to make her move, Kakashi replied gently. This is so unfair. She should be getting a reward, not a punishment. Sakura sighed. A cold breeze appeared to blow through the tree, causing the 3 members of Team 7 to tremble. Team 7, not present? Danzu, Hamura and Koharu walked through the corridors of the Hokage Tower towards the Hokage's office, Danzu hoping to get a word with her, to tell her that it may look like he wanted her as a weapon, and he really did, but he was not going to go the route with Namikaze Naruto. If she was given to Danzu, she'd still be in the village and protected from IWA and the rest of her parents' enemies. But he was also willing to help her set something else up. He really did want the best for Konoha, even if he had seen the methods of the Yondaime, Sandaime, and now the Godaime as a bit soft. He had taken the extremist viewpoint he could, not because he himself thought that way, but because one of the Hokage's advisors needed to be that way to give them the fullest picture possible. Okay, so he might have gone a bit overboard with the root program. But really, the civilians needed to see that emotionless tools were not the best things ever. He was not as extreme as he portrayed himself to be, and in all honesty, he rather enjoyed the arguments that he got into with the Hokage. It made them really think. They needed an opposing viewpoint to make the best and most informed decisions. Tsunade blinked and continued. Oh really? Do you think you can make me do that? I don't think so. She started to laugh quietly. Naruto is the reason I came back. We are being entirely serious, Tsunade. Danzu sighed, despite his reluctance to do this to Minato and his best friend Hiruzen. I hate you all. Tsunade smiled at him in surprise. Danzu bowed his head as he observed the other 2 elders go. I would suggest that you either give her to me or banish her. You can always call her back, you know, he remarked. I know you would never kill her. Naruto is too precious to the village. There are a lot of things I could teach her, one of which would be how to appear emotionless on the battlefield, he continued, aware that she hated the views he stood for. Tsunade snarled at the old man. You know that I would never give her to you, or Sasuke, she said. She is the reason I came back, and she is the only reason I am Hokage, she stated. Danzu nodded, knowing that was her response. He looked at her gravely and said, So, what are you going to do about this? I am willing to offer some assistance. Let me tell you something, I am not actually as extreme as I portray myself to be. Really? Tsunade asked, not really believing the man. If that is true, then why? How else will you be able to make the best decisions? My job is to bring to light the darker side of this so that you can make the right choice no matter how difficult. Danza stated. By adopting the stance I have, you get a better picture of any situation. You, Minato, and Sarutobi are a bit soft, and that's good for Konoha. The Konoha of your teacher, Minato, and now you is the Konoha that I want to protect. This is a village where the civilians are safe and happy, and our ninja force, though small at the moment, is superb. The most ingenious way Tsunade had ever seen Danza was like this. Is that why Sensei let you get away with so much? Danza responded. I can help you with a lot of things, but I don't really want to be Hokage anymore. For one, I'm too old, for another, I'm crippled. The words. I'm still not sure I trust you, Tsunade told him. But to keep in character, I'm going to have to decline your offer for both Sasuke and Naruto, Sasuke's punishment notwithstanding. Danza nodded in understanding and turned to leave. If you need help, don't hesitate to call me, he said. As Danza closed the door behind him, Tsunade sighed and rubbed her face with her hands. What am I going to do? There's going to be dissension in the ranks after this, and if they are going to run out the only reason I came back. Naruto-chan was being punished for the unofficial reason of using Kyuubi, and the official reason of hurting Sasuke. This was so stupid. With a savage smile, Tsunade exclaimed, Shizen! Shizen poked her head through the door as Tsunade began writing on a blank sheet of paper, saying, Yes, Tsunade-sama? Get me Kakashi. Once he gets here, we are going to see Sasuke. Shizen said. Yes, Tsunade-sama. Bowing. Team 7, not present? There were no pictures of this. Kaibioka-sama. Or Shinawani-sama. That Minato might have left behind on the walls or table, so Kakashi leaned against the wall next to the bed when he heard a soft click. He blinked as he felt the wall shift, and fell sideways when the section of wall he was leaning against slid open. Kakashi was searching through his sensei's old room and Team 7's actual treehouse hideaway in search of more photos to show Sasuke and Sakura. He hit the floor with a loud crash, landing in the slightly smaller hidden room. As Kakashi looked around, he noticed that there were 2 single beds on either side of a small cradle, and that a low bedside table against the wall had a number of framed pictures neatly arranged on it. Kakashi cautiously made his way around the exquisitely made stained wooden cradle to reach the pictures. She wore an ebony black battle kimono, and the first picture he picked up showed a crying blonde with tear-filled diamond blue eyes sitting in the lap of a gorgeous red-headed, red-eyed woman. Her hair was styled in a sophisticated French top knot, with the extra hair neatly braided, and her bangs fell in an elegant way, framing her face and ruby-red eyes. Kakashi saw that the woman had clawed hands, slit pupils, and 9 long red fox tails while she was sitting there, observing the infant in her lap with her warm but sad red eyes. Could she be the same woman that Sensei had honored by referring to her as his revered mother? The next picture he looked at showed a happier scene. The woman in the first picture was joined by another, who was clearly younger. The younger woman had warm, happy golden eyes and was holding the now older blonde child in a headlock. He saw that underneath those bright blonde bangs was a Konoha Hittite. The child must be his sensei. He was wearing it the same way. The younger Minato sensei was fumbling for hold on the younger woman's arms, but appeared to be very happy, his mouth open in laughter. The red-eyed woman was laughing, her eyes sparkling in delight. The younger woman was wearing a dusty emerald green battle kimono. Her bright ebony black hair was styled in a simple training outfit. The redhead's hair stayed the same, but she was wearing a simple training outfit. Although Minato was dressed as a ninja, the two women were wearing casual civilian clothing, modest red and black skirts, with the younger wearing a green top and the redhead wearing a blue one. They were sitting at a table and appeared to be in a restaurant, most likely celebrating. A third picture showed an even older Minato, proudly wearing a brand new Chunin vest, with the redhead ruffling his hair and the black-haired young woman hugging him from the side. Although the camera was focused on his sensei and two companions, Kakashi could see several of his sensei's friends in the background of a fourth picture that was similar to the third but showed Minato in his Jounin uniform. Looking rather smug, Kakashi thought. Kakashi surmised that the younger woman might have taken the fifth picture, which showed Minato and the older woman in a jewelry store. Minato appeared to be searching for a ring, possibly an engagement ring, and the one on the counter resembled the one he had occasionally seen Kushina-san wearing when she was off duty prior to her marriage to his sensei. However, that hadn't stopped him from starting the longest game of play followed by chase and hunt ever to express his absolute delight when Kushina-san said yes. He, Obito, and Rin, whom he had just taken on, had been sore for days after the event. The next picture showed Minato bending on one knee and presenting the ring to Kushina-san. He'd done it privately, so this was Kakashi's first glimpse of the event. Minato was blushing a little, Kushina was looking thoughtful, and the black-haired young woman looked like she wanted to tease his sensei badly. Kakashi came to the conclusion that the final picture must have been taken shortly after Minato and Kushina were married because it appeared to be a family portrait. Behind Minato, a red-eyed man with glimmering red eyes was wearing a rather elegant blood-red ceremonial kimono with tiny red flowers cascading down its length. The man was wearing a matching black kimono with tiny red flowers instead of white, and Kushina-san was wearing a white kimono with tiny red flowers. Kushina-san, on the other hand, was wearing the traditional female wedding kimono, which was white with large pink and red flowers splattered across the fabric, possibly also a reference to her nickname. After gathering the pictures, being cautious not to destroy any of them, Kakashi walked out of the chamber, and saw that the secret door had automatically closed. Team 7, not present? When Kakashi came down the stairs holding many images, Sakura and Sasuke were sitting on the two couches on the lower floor, wondering whether their sensei had discovered anything. The crash they had heard earlier had surprised them, but neither had gone to check. It was Sakura who inquired, "Are those the photos, Kaka-sensei?" As he walked over to the couches and chairs, Kakashi said to Sakura-chan, "Yes, these are the pictures of Kaibyo-sama and Shinowani-sama. They were in a hidden room." Sakura sighed. "They're both so pretty," Kakashi informed them both. "Unfortunately, you will probably never meet them." "And why is Kaka-sensei there?" Sasuke inquired. He could enter the Namikaze compound, but he didn't want to have to respond to the questions that would follow that specific revelation just yet. Kakashi had not yet told his students that he had been formally adopted by his sensei. "Because the scroll is locked, somewhere in the Namikaze compound and no one but the heir can get in," he said, somewhat lying. "So the compound is only accessible to Na-chan?" Sasuke carefully inquired. "Only Naruto can get in," Kakashi said with a nod. Sakura trailed off. "And since no one is allowed to even get near the compound," she was effectively alone, and Kakashi nodded once more before continuing. "No one will be able to get at the contract, Because no one wants Naruto to know who she is. Nobody is even supposed to know that she is.